The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin, Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Pollino with BP Media Group.
Welcome back to the show. This week, we have someone who's in the running for our most reoccurring guest on the show. We have Shane Tatum with Integra Insurance, the Medium Business of the Year winner, here to drop some incredibly insightful information. If you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just in business at all, this is incredible information that he shares here on the show with us. So let's get into that now.
Welcome back. Does this make 4 or 5?
It's at least maybe 4.
I think it's the 4.
I don't think
I'll have to go back and do the tally.
Yeah.
You may be in the running for the top spot on the
right.
most reoccurring guest on the podcast.
That's a good honor.
It
I love
is.
that.
It is.
Right. Well, first of all, congratulations on being Medium Business of the Year. We're thrilled
Thank you.
to be able to honor y'all.
Yeah, very exciting. So very blessed. So we appreciate it, and it was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't really prepared for that. I don't know why. I never thought about it.
Haven't you always watched the Oscars when they say,
Yeah.
well, I didn't prepare for this? And you're like, you were nominated.
I know, but I'm like, no, we're from the south end of the county. We're not going to win that.
That's not true at all.
No.
We love Huntington.
I know.
We love to work with Huntington. In
Yeah.
fact, the newspaper called me this morning asking me about, they said we want a business in Huntington to write about. And I was like, you need to call Integra.
Yeah.
Because
Awesome.
they're celebrating 40 years.
Perfect
We
timing.
are. It's been a really, really incredible year and humbling, and especially like our 40th anniversary, we had a red carpet salute, and very appreciative of the chamber for that. And just the number of people that showed up. I don't know how many people came through. Couple of hundred through our doors. I mean, that's a lot. And so very, very blessed, very humbled about that.
That's a great testament
Sure.
to your history, to your employees. I mean, we are with y'all's employees all the time, whether it's at a First Friday or a women's networking. Y'all do insurance for us. I mean, you just have a great team.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is the people. And I think that it wasn't always that way. It was, early on, it was a few of us, and we went through our growth struggle and our struggle of retaining people, and really did not have a formal process, and had a couple of foundational staff members who are now a big part of our leadership team, and really learned the hard way. I learned the hard way on employee retention, engagement, just a lot of growth and trip and falls. I call it skin in our knee. We skin our knee a lot, both knees. And so, I think that created a foundation, and that's really what it comes down to, is our people deserve that Business of the Year award. It's not me for sure. And it's the number of, it's our individuals that are out there doing it every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations again. I have a selfish question for you on here. So we as a business are currently in that growing pain, retention issues, and it's also the world we live in right now. But tell me a little bit more about that. A lot of our listeners are small business owners, and I'm sure are going through a lot of the same thing and in those same phases of business. How did you get out of that? What did you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think, and I think there's a lot of businesses over the last, just go back 30 years.
Yeah.
When we would hire people in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were not proactively, it was reactive hiring. It was,
Interesting.
We need someone. Okay, who can we get? Okay, what do they make? Can we afford them? Okay, what do we have to pay them? There was all these reactionary just to be frankly, just brutally transparent, reactionary processes. And we changed all that probably about 10 years ago, and really went down this path of being at or above market, right? And we wanted to pay our people. We wanted to take care of our people. And in order to do that, we had to look at our business and say, okay, are there things we're doing that are not profitable, so that we could afford to pay our people, right? And
Interesting.
so it was more of this proactive pay scale approach, benefits approach, and then probably more important than that, just pure culture. Our people like working with each other. Our core values really just, I can't really have any conversation without talking about our core values. And our core values brought all of those really foundational employees from day one. And it basically speaks to who they are. And now newer employees, they gravitate there very, very quickly. They become, everything we do becomes about your core values, how you think, how you deal with a conflict, whether it be another staff member or whether it be a customer. We're in the insurance business. Not everybody's happy when they leave our office.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that is the nature of the business. And so I think it's just everything goes through those core values. Everything filters through those core values. And it was scary. Like, just to answer your specific question, it was scary to make that transition because we're making this commitment to this person. And I always told our people, hey, we've kind of got to be right up against the edge of the cliff before we hire someone, because we don't love firing people, and we don't love, I never want to be a layoff person. Right. So I never want to overcommit. I want to commit for the long haul with an employee. And I think that's the transition. It's just really just a total mindset shift from, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, we need a person. And then it moved to, what are our needs over the next 12 months? What are our needs over the next 18 months? And then proactively doing that through our core values.
Yeah. I love that proactive versus reactive thing. I had I was in Leadership Lufkin last year, had a really amazing conversation with Gene at Lee Trans, and we were talking about how he built it. And he said to me, it's if you build it, they will come philosophy with it. It's like, do you go out and hire the people first and then go find enough business to pay for all these people that you have? Or do you just, like what we've been doing for years, is just, we always said jump first and learn to fly on the way down, where it's like, okay, we have a lot of business. Now we got to go get the employees. And that's a hard way to live.
It is. And it's a lot on business owners and entrepreneurs. Part of our business that's a little more across the state, maybe regional, is we have a program that helps other insurance agencies start insurance agents. Insurance agents start insurance agencies. And we've learned through that. I mean, they start out as a solopreneur. Yeah. And
for sure.
They go through the same thing. And we get asked that question a lot. Hey, it's time for me to hire somebody. What do I do? Right. And so part of our business is counseling those individuals, other insurance agencies across, Texas and Louisiana. And so we're learning still, but we get a lot of practice and sometimes you just got to roll your sleeves up. And so I love individuals that start businesses. I love entrepreneurship. I think there's just something a little bit heroic about it in a way, right? And taking that leap and jumping out there.
Yeah, I love that.
I was just sitting here thinking that this needs to be a chamber university.
Yeah.
To talk to small businesses about being proactive, not reactive, and how. And then once you get them, I know you have these wonderful core values that y'all stand behind. What are some of the things that you're doing to keep your employees?
Yeah. So, development, number one, helping them grow. In a small business, that's really hard because there's not a lot of ladder to climb. Yeah. Right. We have a very flat organization in terms of leadership and organizational structure. I like flat. I don't like 14 levels to get to me. So we attempt to stay as flat as possible.
Interesting.
And sometimes you're talking to someone who has one rung in the ladder to climb before they hit me.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do you grow in a small business when people are used to growth equals corporate ladder climbing? And what do you do about that question? And it's really more about growth as the individual. So we also train them to the point and attempt to train them to the point as if they're going to retire with us, right? And a lot of businesses are fearful of that, I've found. Well, what if I train them and then they leave? I mean, that's well, yes, that's a risk you take.
Brent always says, but what if you what if you don't train them and then they stay?
And they stay.
That's exactly right. And so we hit that point where, you know what, we are going to develop people. We are going to, we're not treating them as a number. We're going to treat them as people, as we should. And we commit to them first. Yeah. Right. And so I think that is one of the retention things that we have is the culture is look, we're going to commit to you. And now if you don't commit back to us long term, we can't really help that, but we are going to commit to you. Yeah. And I think that's necessary. And I think that shows through the retention piece. Yeah. I've got some 25 plus year, we have some definitely 20 year plus. We joked the other day how 2 members of our leadership team have been with us 6 years now, and they're the newbies, right? They're the rookies. And so if you've got a 6-year rookie, that's a big deal.
That's a good thing. Yeah. I love that. I've never really thought about it as flat. Somebody asked me not long ago, so who's second at the chamber? And I went, 6 people.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very flat.
Yeah.
It's a flat structure.
Because everybody is as equal and as important as the other person.
Yeah. I want to add one thing because just popped into my head because I started it about 2 years ago. And Melissa, our community relations director, served on it this year, I believe. And it was what I called a staff council. And so we have 31 employees now. And I started realizing that, I didn't know everyone's kids' names. That bothered me.
Interesting.
Right? And so, because for years I knew spouse's name, I knew kids' names, I knew, a lot. And I started noticing a couple of years ago that I didn't always know the kids' names, and so I started a 5-person staff council, and it was a non-leadership staff members, and they meet with me not one-on-one, but as a group. They meet with me once a month, and they get to ask me whatever, right? And one of the second reason I wanted to do this was I started realizing that my office felt a little like the principal's office, which wasn't good. Yeah. I did not want that. Right. I found out through a few people that, coming into my office felt like they were in trouble, which was weird to me because I could never be scary in my mind. And so I don't really know why people were a little bit nervous about doing that. I guess just the position itself, but I wanted to eradicate that. And so I hope in some way retention comes out of that. 10 of our 20-something non-leadership level people have gone through it, and we have another 2 years to go through everyone. That's great. And so over a 4-year period, we'll go through that process. I love
that.
What kind of questions do you get asked so they can ask you anything?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you get?
We're private companies, so we don't lay out the P&L and the balance sheet, but how we make money. Like, how do we make money?
Interesting.
What are our plans? What's the vision? Past, the year-to-year planning that we discuss, what is the long-term vision? Is there an exit strategy? And then it's, why do we do X? Something in their day-to-day job. why do we do this? And a few times the answer was, I didn't know we were still doing that. We need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And then there's been a few times where it's like, well, okay, the reason we do that is because of this, this, and this. And then that individual's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Now I'll go do it.
Now I know why I'm doing it. And so it's, things that are, personal questions all the way to business questions. And it's run the gamut, really.
I can imagine that's
that's
enlightening for you as well to have the questions that they ask probably reveal things that maybe you hadn't even thought
I
of.
tell them right up front in the very first January meeting every year, this is way more important for me than it will be for you. I have learned so much.
I can imagine.
It's actually guided some decision making.
I'm creating a staff council today.
I love it.
I don't have 30 employees, so it'll be like the entire company will be on the council, but maybe one or two. But
that's great.
I think that's a really cool idea to do something like that.
That's great. At the award show, you talked about the fact that there was a little bit of irony to see two insurance companies nominated this year because of price increases. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the insurance market and what kind of change are we seeing?
Yeah, I'll try not to geek out a little bit too much on you here, but insurance has gone through what so many other businesses have gone through with inflationary issues, and it's kind of been a perfect storm. So insurance pricing through COVID, not to keep going back and blaming everything on COVID, but insurance pricing was depressed, right? And so over the years, as new vehicles and new gadgetry and, the $1,500 fender bender is now $12,000, right? There are no fender benders anymore. There's so many things in your bumper, just speaking specifically like car insurance to be simple here. And so between regulators and insurance companies trying to get their rate right and rates being depressed in some states because regulators were not allowing the rate increases. And then this lull of COVID hit and insurance companies were kind of, in a spot where the calm before the storm. And then inflation hits. And then really what we had was hyperinflation. And then you put that on top of everything's more expensive to repair. Mm-hmm. And then you realize that as an insurance company, now us as agents and brokers, we're dealing with the front line, but the actual insurance companies of the world realize that they are severely underpriced, right? And so as this happens, there's two things that normally happen. Rate goes up first. And then when they figure out they can't get profitable after rate goes up, then they start going down the path of coverage reduction, which is really kind of where we're starting to go. Commercial business insurance is in a better spot. They're starting to come out of it. Auto insurance is getting there. Home insurance is the big concern. And part of that is because we do some things with property insurance, home insurance that we probably shouldn't do as an industry. We've done it for decades. When you go buy a car, if you buy it new, you can probably get new car replacement coverage for the first year, right? If you want to pay for that. Now, if you don't want to pay for that, your car and the value, if you have an accident or a claim, it's going to depreciate, right? Well, then when we insure our homes, the biggest elephant in the room is that we have a depreciating piece of our homes, which is the roof, but we are actually insuring that on a replacement value.
Interesting.
Okay, so the thing that I think is coming, pure opinion, is there's going to have to be something to address the roof issue, because in the state of Texas, we have basically 5 catastrophic states in one. Mm-hmm. Between Dallas-Fort Worth, between the Gulf Coast, between Central Texas. I mean, we have wind, we have hailstorms. We can predict fires, right? We can predict as an industry regular losses. What you can't do is predict overdevelopment or development in mass in the hell belt,
Right.
right? And if you're buying a roof in a neighborhood every 3 years, you will never make money, right? And so we have to figure that out as an industry. There's a whole lot of things happening, and I think that we're going to get there, but it's been painful, and it's going to be painful, I think, in 2024, and I think there's going to be some light at the end of the tunnel come about 2025. So I'm sorry that your insurance rates are maybe not going to feel good for another year, but
there is a light at the
but
end
there
of the
is a
tunnel.
light at the end of the tunnel, and we've got to be smarter as an industry as we look at risk, right? Because we can't go away. Insurance is a $6 trillion industry globally, going on $10 trillion predicted over the next 5 years. Small businesses can't start without insurance. Homes can't be purchased without insurance. You can't drive up and down the road without insurance. We have to be better.
Yeah.
And so the industry's got to get better at this.
So I read yesterday, actually, that while premiums and rates are increased, profitability in insurance has decreased.
Correct.
Is that true?
That's
so
correct.
It's a different situation. So we talk a lot about inflation right now. We talk a lot about corporate. I don't want to use the word gouging, but gouging in a lot of cases where the price of eggs quadrupled, but the input price of eggs didn't quadruple. And it's like somebody's making some money here, right? But that's not necessarily the case with insurance. So it's just what the market is dictating. Cars cost a lot more than they did 10 years ago, right? I mean, it's
right. We didn't factor in, this price increase. We were behind the 8 ball. And again, just to pick on the vehicle side of things, the auto side of things, when your Suburbans are costing, $85,000 and, Tahoes are, $70,000 and pickups are $60,000 to $80,000. I mean, we're not insuring, $20,000 vehicles anymore.
and that happened fast.
It happened really, really fast.
Really quick.
And just really got caught in
Right.
my opinion behind, being underpriced. Now, obviously the consumer doesn't feel that way, and I understand it, but I'm a consumer too, and I'm feeling it.
Sure.
And but the insurance industry, the property casualty side of the industry, which is what I'm talking about here, 9 months, the third quarter ending 2023 reported a $32 billion loss as an industry.
Wow.
Now, when you've got an industry that targets a profit of 4 cents on the dollar, I mean, that's what the target is 4 cents.
That's razor thin.
That's thin already. So when you are losing, when you're losing $32 billion,
Right.
that's not sustainable. Something's going to have to give there. And that's why I think we've been in this price increase phase. The next phase is going to be coverage reduction. We saw it in health insurance, right?
Sure.
I mean, your deductibles went up. You're paying more of your, out of pocket has increased in most health insurance.
Right.
To get back to what it was intended to be,
Yeah.
which was somewhat of a major medical instead of a maintenance policy.
Right.
That's where the property and casualty insurance industry has moved, is they're trying to get to that place where they can get back in the black and stabilize. And hopefully we'll see a little bit of price reduction if that coverage element does come into play.
Interesting. Oh, very cool. Thanks for explaining that.
Sorry
that was
for geeking out on
No,
that.
no.
That's a great explanation.
No, I love it. We had S&W on here a few months ago, and they were explaining the other side of that coin,
Yeah.
where like it's a completely different world now. Like when I mean, you don't just put a new bumper on a car anymore. There's like 18 sensors in the front bumper of a car you got to replace when you replace the bumper.
I feel for the body shop guys. I have a lot of friends in the body shop business, and naturally we work together. And they're having to go back for supplements because it's like they get in there, they think it's going to cost $7,000. They get in there and this happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're in it for $13,000. And so I feel for them, and they are battling this as well.
Interesting.
So when you joined your dad in 95, is that right?
95.
Yeah,
Yep,
95. Did you ever imagine that Integra would be where it is today?
No, just to be short with it, not at all. As a matter of fact, I spent the first 5 years figuring out why I decided to be in the insurance business. And insurance is the business that you get into or you go to work for and you never really leave it. But nobody wakes up, nobody goes to college, nobody graduates high school, graduates college even, and goes, you know, I think I'm going to be in the insurance business. That's my goal in life. That's my dream. Now I love it, and it turned out to be my dream. And but in 21 till I was probably 25, 26 years old, I kept looking, like, you know, with his permission. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know. You know, it was very selfish. I was very selfish with it in my mindset, having been recently married, you know, graduated college, get married within 6-7 months. And then what's my career going to be? Am I going to move to the city? I saw a podcast that I think was out yesterday from this recording, and it was everybody goes away and comes back, right?
Yeah, we do.
I never went away. I went away from college, but I came back and went to work, which was a little different. But I thought I was going to be in Houston, Dallas. I was going to do that thing as well. And I kept looking. And then one day I read an article in a trade journal that kind of just changed everything. It's like, I'm doing this wrong. Because I spent the first 4 or 5 years really about producing business, trying to grow my personal income, not really thinking about a business. It was really just, I'm an agent. I'm going to sell insurance. I'm going to make a commission.
Right.
That was not what I needed to be doing. And I actually was not our best salesperson, ironically. And so once I come to grips with that my role was going to be more operational, more marketing, more, you know, really just leadership in general, and just embrace that, that's when I started seeing that things would be different, right?
I love that.
And so, no, day one, not at all. It was survival. At best, it was really a survival thing for us.
That's great.
Very cool. You've talked about this a little bit, but what do you think's contributed to where it is now? The growth, the stability. And we talked a lot about at the early part about the maintaining and retention of people, but is there anything else that's added to that growth?
Well, I think you know, just being consistent, and whether that be with people, whether that be with customers. I watched my dad convince a company to pay a claim that the company probably shouldn't have paid, because it was going to it was going to basically keep this business from going out of business, right?
Sure.
The business, you know, had a claim, and, you know, this goes back 25 years ago now. And I watched him and was in the meeting convincing this executive that, you know, it's a small town. This business is basically not going to survive this claim if you don't pay it. It was marginal at best. And the company ended up paying the claim. The business survived and ended up thriving. And I just, you know, I think about things like that throughout our history. Just being consistent and being stable, and that goes back to our people, and that goes back to just getting up every day and showing up. I think that I've seen some things and hearing some leadership. You know, you don't always know what to say in people's situations, a death in the family or tragedy or whatever. And the answer that's the best answer is you just show up, right? And you just keep showing up, and you keep pushing a little bit. And probably the last thing that jumps into my mind is I read a book several years ago, 2 books actually. Good to Great is a book I always recommend to people. And then Simon Sinek's Infinite Game. Now his most popular one is Start With Why, but he has another book called The Infinite Game. And we stopped focusing on making money. It's given. We have to turn a profit, right? Every business has to turn a profit to stay in business.
Right.
But the real issue for us, and the real kind of game changer for us, was when we started thinking of things about just staying in the game, right? And that's what the infinite game is about. Is business should be about staying in business, not about just making money, right? If you stay in business, you make money. And so I think that changed everything. So, year-to-year profits became less important. How much became less important. And maintaining relationships with our customers and our people, our employees, became number one.
That's so important.
So
I love that. I think that's just as good a place, if any, to end. That was
awesome.
Really good information, man. We appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your wisdom. And
I think you're one of my favorite people to have on because
I agree.
You share so much passion and knowledge, and it's so relatable.
Well, thank you.
Very relatable.
I appreciate that.
It's a testament to why Integra has been around 40 years.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Congratulations again on being the medium business of the year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congrats. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. Truly appreciate all of your support. If you'll do us a favor and share this episode of the podcast with someone that you might think finds these type of stories interesting, whether it's a small business owner or an entrepreneur that you think might need to hear this story. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.